Hey guys, so today I am not only going to talk about the family of Bud, but also the story of when I went to Bud's house. So, Bud actually had two siblings. His sister, Mildred, was born in 1921. I didn't ask my father about her birthday, but uh, yeah. His brother was born in 1923. I didn't ask him about his birthday either. My father about his birthday either. So then my grandfather Bud was born on September 23rd, 1927. Uh Mildred, she died in 2002. I didn't ask my father about her death date. My his his brother died. His brother Glenn. Yeah, his brother's name Glenn. He died in 2003, but I didn't ask my father about his death date either. But my father did tell me about their birth years and death years. Um, so Bud had parents that his father, I think, was born in 1899, and I forgot when he died. But his mother, I didn't remember when she was born, but Bud did tell me she died in like April 1939 or just 1939. And I asked him about how would you be happy if she had been still alive, and I had to write it on the board so that way he would answer because he was old, he couldn't like answer, like, I think because he like for his mind. When he looked at it, he said, "Well, I don't know what to tell you, son." Or hun, I don't know. But it was nice. And so when he was younger, he like it was after World War II, and it was in 1946. He had been working at the Air Force, and during that time he was writing letters to Betty. He was in love with Betty, and but Betty was my grandmother, and Betty, couldn't have any children because of her ovaries were like giant. They were growing big, or one of them was, and they had to remove all of those parts of her of where she can have babies. So they had to be married without any children. They got married in April 1951, but not I don't remember the exact date. They got married on TV, bride and groom. They had an interview about it, but there was no video on YouTube. Bud's name was William Hugh Tucker. We they just called him Bud, but Popar, I called him Popar. That's why everyone called him Popar. I called him that when I was little. I did not intentionally did it because I was young. What's next? So they've been together in 1960. My adoptive uncle. His name was Jimmy, my dad's adopted brother. He was born in 1960, but I didn't ask what his birth date was to my father. But he was but he had been adopted by Bud and Betty for quite some time after his birth. I don't know. I didn't ask about when he was adopted, but he had been adopted by Bud. This house that him and his wife Betty bought the house, and the house was built in 1954. And I think they built it themselves. They had them build themselves. Um, so they they adopted him, and then I had my grandmother, my real grandmother. Her name is Lou Whitley. She was born on January 13th, 1957. She only had one child, which is my father. The boyfriend of my dad's real dad. He was hanging out with her, and she had broke up with him. I don't know what happened. I don't know why. I don't even know if he's still alive or not. But she gave birth to my father on May 26th, 1977. Uh, so, sorry, I'm thinking, what's next? My grandmother didn't really take care of him. She left him in a crib while she was at a bar, and so Bud and Betty were like, you know what? We're gonna take care of him, and since you don't really take care of him really well, we would be taking care of him, so we're gonna be the ones to take care of him. So that's what they did. They took care of him. They adopted him. It was in February 1979. I don't remember. I didn't ask about the exact date, but I asked Lou about it. It was February 1979. Lou is my grandmother, my dad's real mom. I talked to her on the phone, and yeah. She's still alive. She's 68. She's 68 years old, and she told me she didn't know what happened to her boyfriend. And she still, like, comes to my father. He still comes to her. She used to work at Chimneys, but recently on May 7th, they sold it. They sold Chimneys, and now she works for real estates like she did earlier before Chimneys. Um, Chimneys is a place of apartments, which I'll get to that later. So, after they adopted my father, they had adopted him for a while, and, I mean, they raised him for a while, until he met my mother, Michelle. They met in 1998, but they were not together until 1999 when they were dating. And at that time, that's when she came to my grandfather's house, and she and and it wasn't until 2000 when my father moved out, and he lived at Chimneys, the apartments at Chimneys with my mother. And then my parents moved out of Chimneys in 2001, and that's when they moved into Jackson Street, the house that I never showed you guys. It was a brick house. It was in Jackson Street, in Albemarle. It was the house that I was raised at after I was born. I was born when they were living there, when I was born in, July 27th, 2004. Andrew was born on September 24th, 2006, and he was born when they were still living there. We moved out of there when my mother and my father, like, my mother and father had been, like, arguments, like, he was drunk. The one of the main reasons why, it's because in, like, November 30th that night in 2013, it was actually a coincidence, because that same day, earlier that day, like in the afternoon, my friend Sheila fell down the steps, and she, like, broke her leg, or sprang how do you say it, sprung her ankle, yeah. And later that night, my father was drunk, hanging out with his friend's house, and he fell down steps, like 30 steps. It was like down a basement. He literally fell down, and his head hit a lamp. The lamp shattered. The light of the light bulb shattered, and he fell down the floor, crashed down the floor, and even though his head wasn't cracked, it was bleeding out, and it looked like he was murdered, and he was unconscious. So the helicopter took him up, like, when they found him on the floor unconscious, they thought that it was my mother who pushed him down there, and my father's head was bleeding, but it was not because of that. They accused her of that, and that was so not good. That was unacceptable. I don't blame my mother uh for getting mad over being wrongly accused of that. She didn't get arrested because it wasn't her. She wasn't there. It was because he was drunk, and he fell down himself because he was drunk. They thought my mother literally like tried to murder him by hitting a glass bottle. On this side of the head. It was bleeding on this side of the head. He has a scar right now on that head, on that side of the head. He's still alive, don't worry. But they took him to a hospital. They had him stitched. And that's why one of the reasons why they were divorced. But also another thing is like my father like literally choked my mother. No, not choked, but grabbed her neck just so that she could stop like yelling at him. Like they were arguing, and like he literally okay. It wasn't when they were arguing, but after they were arguing, she was asleep, and he went over there to the bedroom and he like grabbed her neck, and it's like he tried to murder her. Like really? But I'm saying it was like he tried to murder her. She was like, "Call the cops." Wait, Andrew, call the cops. But we were scared. We never done that before. So I doubt that he was trying to murder her. But he didn't get arrested for that. Unfortunately, he didn't get arrested for grabbing her neck. He could have killed her. I know that he wasn't trying to kill her, but seriously, he could have killed her. And I can see why she tried to divorce him. And so I mean, I can see why that he had a divorce thing. They were separate, they had to move out. We moved out of Jackson Street house on January 14th, 2014. But then oh, hold on. Yeah, after we moved. Sorry, I was about to complain about my father. Like I had to go back to my father even though after we were separate. Me and Andrew had to do that, like which I'll talk about that in another video. But after we moved out on January 14th, 2014, we moved into Montgomery Avenue. And we stayed there until we moved out on July 3rd, 2018 to 9th Street house, which was across the street. Oh yeah, we filmed videos on Montgomery Avenue and 9th Street and this house. Me only in this house, but Andrew was in those last two houses. The 9th Street house, we lived there until a coincidence the same date, like July 3rd. Not like, it's actually July 3rd, 2021 when we moved out of that house. And we moved here, which we still live here today. My father remained living in Jackson Street until February 20th, 2020, when he moved his father to an apartment on Montgomery Avenue, where we used to walk down there. It was in 448. 448. That was the address of that. But then so it was sorry, I'm thinking. Alright, so he took care of Bud and had everyone taking care of Bud at that hotel, or I mean at that apartment until they moved out to that same place apartment, but in a different room, a different home, and it was in 442. It was around like March 11th, 2021, I believe, and he remained taking care of Bud until his death, and that's where he died. If you want me to tell you guys about his death, we'll talk about that in another video. But, oh yeah, I did talk about his death in the last video about him, about Bud, about his family, but I haven't, the video that I had deleted, and I told you guys why I deleted that video, but, I don't want to feel like doing this, like all the information, like, right now. Like, because I'll feel tired. But let's talk about the house. Bud's house. So, uh, Bud's house used to have like they used to have like dogs. They would take care of old people in that house. And it was white. The house was white. White mailbox until it was painted yellow for some reason. And but then it was eventually later painted blue when someone else lived there. When the family lives in that house today that we do not know of, but they do know Karen because they work at the school. Because one of the late, I mean, that lady, I think a mother works at a school with Karen. And the house that they live in now is painted, I say gray, but uh, it was like at I think it was Sherwood, that place. And when I remembered, it was like no, not like this is true. There was a little farmhouse of horses, and where you gonna have your like my father had like two horses. The last horse died like 2014. And so there was a garage beside the gate of the front door, and then between the garage and the house there was like a garden where they had, and there was like a field, and there was a gate where you can go in and into the front door. And when you go into the front door, there's a dark room that's connected to the kitchen, and it's a TV room. And if I would come into the front door, the TV's this way. And you have the books and all the movies and episodes and all that. I think this is from Barbara, her friends and family, which I will get to that later. And the TV, the kitchen was right here. It was dark. And when you leave the kitchen to the right, there was oh yeah, before I tell you guys, in the kitchen there was like I think there was a bathroom, but also there was like this thing where you like iron. I forgot what it is. But when you leave that kitchen into the right side, um, to the right, and there's a huge living room. It was like a white living room. It had a big windows like a hotel. Huge, big rectangular windows. And when I looked this way down, there were like two doors, I believe. One door was that you couldn't go in, that you couldn't like really go into the back door. It was like locked, like it was you can't really go in. But on the left end, there was a door where you can go in, where you could come in. It was like a black sheet or a door, I don't know, but it was. But my father didn't let me go in. I think he's like, don't go in. Um, and I wanted to know what that was. I couldn't go. I never went inside the garage. I never went to the rest of the house. Only the TV room, the living room, and the kitchen. So I asked my mother what was it like in the rest of the house, and she said it was just a long hallway full of bedrooms. And so she said there were two bedrooms and with the left side of the hallway, and there were three bedrooms on the right side of the hallway. And so there was and my mother said there was a huge bedroom at the last bedroom at the end of the left side of the hallway. And there used to be no locks. And so, anyways, sorry, I'm thinking. So I asked my mother, and I even asked Karen, like, why did, or, oh yeah, and I also said to my father about there was a hallway there, full of bedrooms, and I asked them, like, did I choose not to go there, or is it because that you didn't let me? Because, like, I asked my father, and he's like, I don't know. My mother was like, and my mother was, my mother was like, I don't know, I guess probably because of, or no, she was like this, it's probably because there were people that were sleeping there. And then Karen's like, she doesn't know why. She had no idea why either. So then, my, my babysitter, my former babysitter, Barbara, and her friend Tonya, and Tonia's children, is a Spanish family. They lived there for a short time at that house because they were selling it. The house was sold like 2013 or 14. And I asked my father when was the last time we went there, and he was like, I don't know. He had no idea. So it was probably 2014. And then the house was sold. So Karen was asking me about the house. Telling her about Bud and his house he used to live in. Oh yeah, my father said that his aunt Mildred had dementia or Alzheimer's, and she was crazy. She was crazy. She told me that there was this machine. There was this machine where she like my father would hear it, and it was just they were just sounding bad. I don't mean to laugh. She said, my son Harold was acting crazy, and I wish that he would die and he would go to hell. Like that was so wrong. And then she was saying that we need to take care of these people, and she meant the dogs, but she called them people. When she would leave the house, she didn't even know which car was at. She didn't know which car it was until she finally found it. She had her keys, but she couldn't find which one. I asked my father about she asked a question about I'll I'll tell you about all the other details later because I don't feel like the rest of it. But she died because she was old, probably because of the dementia or Alzheimer's. We don't know. Uh, my Bud's brother died from cancer from smoking. Uh, I'm sorry, I'm thinking. But Karen was saying that one of that lady that lives there now asked her about that there's locks on the hallway doors, and she asked my father were there any locks, and my father said no, and it must be because of the people that were the rebuilding the house had put locks in there, and they were rebuilding it because the house was getting old because it was made in 1954. Karen was asking me like, do you know about the locks in the hallway? And I said to her that I never went there because like I said, I told you guys I never went to that hallway. But my mother said it was a dark hallway. And but Karen said to me that it was not a big deal. The reason why she was saying to me it was not a big deal because she thought I was saying it's not. She thought I was thinking it was a big deal because I was questioning her about there were no locks there with so you mean to tell me that she was like how does she know how do you know about this lady who like how did somebody tell you about the locks when you don't even know about the people that live there now? And she said I do know them. She works at a school with me. And I said that who told you about it? And she said about the woman there told me. And she said it was not that's why she said it was not a big deal, and I told her it was not a big deal. And she was like, and I was saying, were you like saying it's not a big were you like saying to me, it's not a big deal, William? And then she said yes. And I said that's and you were saying it just like that. And she's like saying yes. And then I said I wasn't saying anything negative to you guys. I saying I don't know why you people are saying something like that to me when I haven't said anything negative to you guys first. I don't know what she said. She was like saying you haven't said anything negative to me or us, whatever. And so then she was like I asked you like it wasn't a big deal. I asked you about if No, she was like saying, "Oh, you didn't know about it? Okay, I was asking you about the how if you knew about it, and you said you weren't there, and you said you were not at the hallway." I hated when she said that because she was like saying that all she was like all I asked was like that. But anyway, that is it for this video. I'll get to more details about it because I'm getting tired. So, bye.